At the charity gala, my daughter leaned close and whispered, trembling, "Dad, please don't say you're my father. I'm ashamed." She wanted me erased from her life because I'm just a janitor. But she had no idea I'd sacrificed everything for her, shaped her future with my own two hands. And tonight, standing on that stage in front of 400 people, I would show her exactly who this poor father really is. Welcome. Please like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. This is a fictional story that explores pride and sacrifice. All names and events are imagined, but the lessons carry deep significance. Now allow me to take you back to where it all started. The chandelier above me blazed like 1,000 suns. I stood on the stage of the Riverside Grand Ballroom, my worn dress shoes planted on polished hardwood, and 400 people in tuxedos and gowns rose to their feet. The applause hit me like a wave, thunderous, relentless, the kind that makes your chest vibrate. I blinked against the spotlight, my hands trembling at my sides, and scanned the sea of faces until I found the only one that mattered. Jessica. She sat at the VIP table 20 feet from the stage, her face the color of ash. Her hands gripped the edge of the white tablecloth so tightly, her knuckles had gone bone white. Next to her, a man in an expensive suit, her boyfriend I assumed, leaned toward her, whispering something. She didn't respond. She just stared at me, her eyes wide and glassy like someone watching a car crash in slow motion. My daughter. 29 years old, the little girl I used to carry on my shoulders through Golden Gate Park every Sunday. The teenager who cried on my lap when her prom date stood her up. The MIT graduate I'd photographed from across the street because she didn't invite me to the ceremony. And right now, she looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. "Ladies and gentlemen," Richard Harmon's voice boomed through the microphone. The CEO of Vertex Technologies stood beside me, silver-haired and confident, in a tailored tuxedo that probably cost more than my monthly rent. This man saved my life. The applause swelled again. I heard whistles, cheers, someone shouting, "Thank you for your service." I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like an imposter in a $15 suit jacket I'd bought at Goodwill in 2005. Richard kept talking. Something about Fallujah. March 2004. An IED, a burning Humvee. Me pulling him out while shrapnel tore into my shoulder. The audience gasped at the right moments, murmured their approval, dabbed at their eyes with cloth napkins. I barely heard it. All I could see was Jessica sinking lower in her chair, her face turning from ash to a sickly gray. And what makes Marcus even more remarkable, Richard continued, his hand on my shoulder, is what I discovered when I found him last year. I wanted to run. I wanted to grab the microphone and say, "Stop. Please. My daughter is dying over there, and I don't know why." But I didn't. Because 2 hours ago she'd made me promise. 6:47 p.m. The coat check area. The gala hadn't started yet. Guests milled around the lobby, champagne flutes in hand, talking about stock portfolios and Napa Valley second homes. I'd arrived early, parked my 08 Civic 3 blocks away, so no one would see it next to the Teslas and Mercedes in the valet line. My jacket smelled like the closet it had hung in for 2 decades. My tie, salvaged from a thrift store, had a small stain near the bottom I'd tried to hide by tucking it into my waistband. I was adjusting it in the hallway mirror when I heard her voice. "Dad." I turned. Jessica stood 5 feet away, a vision in a navy dress that probably cost more than I made in a month cleaning office floors. Her hair was swept up, her makeup flawless. She looked like someone from a magazine, like someone I didn't recognize. "Sweetheart," I said, smiling. "You look... What are you doing here?" The words came out sharp, panicked. She glanced over her shoulder at the crowded lobby, then grabbed my arm and pulled me down the hall past the restrooms into the small alcove where guests hung their coats. "Jessica, I told you," I said, confused. "Richard invited me. I'm a VIP guest. He's honoring me for..." I know. Her voice cracked. I know what he's doing. Dad, you can't be here. What? When they introduce you? When you go on stage? She stepped closer, her eyes shining with tears. Please, please don't say you know me. The world tilted. I reached for the wall to steady myself. What are you talking about? Harrison's family is out there. His parents, important people. They think my father is... She stopped biting her lip. They think my father is someone else. Someone else. Dad, please. A tear spilled down her cheek, smudging her mascara. Just for tonight. Pretend you don't know me. After the gala, we'll talk. I promise. But tonight, I can't. I just can't. I stared at my daughter. The girl I'd raised alone after her mother left when she was 3. The girl I'd sent $3,000 to every month for 10 years. Money I earned scrubbing toilets and mopping floors on the night shift. The girl I'd sacrificed everything for, and she was asking me to pretend she didn't exist. Please, Dad. Her voice broke into a whisper. Please don't say you know me. I should have said no. I should have asked her what the hell was going on, why she was lying to these people, why my own daughter was ashamed of me. But I didn't, because when your child begs you for something, even something that shatters your heart into 1,000 pieces, you say yes. Okay, I whispered. She hugged me then. Fast. 2 seconds. Then she wiped her eyes, fixed her makeup with a compact mirror, and walked back toward the ballroom like nothing had happened. I stood alone in the coat check area, staring at the rows of cashmere and wool hanging on silver hooks, and wondered how we'd gotten here. 8:47 p.m. back on stage. The applause finally died down. Richard was still talking, but the words sounded like they were coming from underwater. I looked at Jessica one more time. She'd slumped forward, her forehead resting on her hands. The man beside her. Harrison put his arm around her, but she shook him off. And then I understood. She hadn't wanted me to come because she was ashamed. Ashamed of the janitor father in the cheap suit. Ashamed of the man who drove a beat-up Civic and lived in a studio apartment in the Tenderloin. Ashamed that I wasn't good enough for her new world. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. How did we get here, I thought. When did I become someone my daughter had to hide? The answer came slowly, painfully, like pulling a splinter from deep beneath the skin. It started on a Wednesday night in March 2024. A night I thought was just like any other. A night I didn't know would be the beginning of the end. A night I didn't know my daughter had already decided I wasn't good enough. Wednesday night, March 13th, 2024. 11 p.m. The vacuum cleaner hummed across the marble floor of the 47th story, a lonesome sound in the dead silence of midnight. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, San Francisco glittered below the Bay Bridge, lit up gold headlights streaming down Market Street, the distant glow of AT&T Park. Up here, the city looked peaceful, orderly. Nothing like the chaos I knew existed on the streets. I pushed the vacuum into the corner office, mahogany desk, leather chair that probably cost more than my car, and on the edge of the desk, catching the hallway light, a watch. I shut off the vacuum, picked it up. Heavy. Cold steel blue face. I turned it over. Rolex Submariner. $15,000 easy. For a second, just a second, I thought about slipping it into my pocket. Then I pulled a Post-it note from the desk and wrote, "Found this on your desk. Didn't want it to walk away. Marcus Night Crew." I placed the watch on top and went back to work. 2 a.m. I sat in the basement break room, cinder block walls, flickering light, a vending machine that took exact change only. My coffee had gone cold. I pulled out my phone. iPhone 6S. Screen cracked down the middle. I dropped it 3 years ago. Never replaced it. Still worked fine. I opened my investment app. The screen buffered on the building's old Wi-Fi. Then the numbers loaded. Portfolio value $8.7 million plus. I stared at it. Not with pride exactly. More like confirmation. 30 years of patience. 30 years of discipline. 30 years of small, boring decisions that most people would laugh at. And it had worked. I closed the app and let my mind drift back. San Diego, 1995. 28 years old. Fresh out of the Marine Corps after 10 years of service. 2 tours in the Gulf, 3 in Okinawa, 1 in Somalia. The Corps gave me discipline structure. The ability to make my bed with hospital corners at 0500 every morning. It also gave me a $5,000 discharge check and a handshake. I didn't know what to do with myself. No college degree, no family. My parents had passed when I was 19, no wife, no kids, just me and a duffel bag. I got a job as a night janitor at a community college, minimum wage. On lunch breaks, I'd sit in the San Diego Public Library, 5th floor financial section. I pulled books off the shelves, The Intelligent Investor, A Random Walk Down Wall Street. I learned about index funds, compound interest, dollar cost averaging. You didn't need to be smart to get rich. You just needed to be patient. So I took that $5,000 and put it into an S&P 500 index fund. Then I kept adding to it. Every month, $100 here, $200 there, $500 when I could manage it. I didn't buy a car for 2 years. I didn't eat out. I didn't go to movies. I just waited. 30 years later, that 5,000 had become more than 8 million. And nobody knew. Not my coworkers. Not my landlord. Not the veterans at the community center where I volunteered on weekends. I kept it that way on purpose. Because money changed people. Made them see you differently. Made them want things from you. I wanted to know who would love me when I had nothing. That was the test. So I stayed a janitor. Drove a 2008 Honda Civic with a dent in the door and 180,000 miles on it. Lived in a studio apartment in the Tenderloin where the radiator clanked and the neighbors screamed at 3 in the morning. And I waited to see who would pass the test. I turned off the phone, finished my coffee. Clocked out at 3 a.m. and walked to the parking garage. My Civic sat alone under a flickering light. The drive home took 20 minutes through empty streets. When I got home, I saw it immediately, the photo on my refrigerator. Jessica in her MIT cap and gown smiling. I hadn't been invited to the ceremony. I'd driven 6 hours to Massachusetts anyway, stood outside the fence. Took a picture from 200 yards away with this same cracked phone, then drove home. That was 7 years ago. I opened my phone again, scrolled to our last messages. Me yesterday, 9 a.m., sent $3,000. Love you, sweetheart. Jessica yesterday, 3 p.m., got it. Thanks. 2 words. That was all I'd gotten in 3 months. 2 words per month. Got it. Thanks. I sent $3,000 every month, had for 10 years, and got 6 words back. I started typing, want to grab lunch this week. Then I stopped. Deleted it. She was busy. She had a career, a life in the city. She didn't need her old man slowing her down. I'd call her tomorrow. She'd probably pick up tomorrow. I peeled off my uniform navy shirt with Marcus stitched over the pocket-matching pants that smelled like pine sol and floor wax. Collapsed onto the bed without pulling back the covers. Just lay there in my work clothes, staring up at the ceiling. There was a crack up there, shaped like the Mississippi River. I'd been meaning to fix it for 3 years. Never got around to it. 3:30 in the morning. The streetlight outside threw shadows across the wall. Somewhere down the hall, a couple was fighting. A baby cried. A siren wailed past on the street below. I closed my eyes. Tomorrow I'd call my little girl. Thursday morning, March 14th, 2024, 9:30 a.m. I woke with my phone in my hand. I'd fallen asleep, holding it still in my janitor uniform, still smelling like floor cleaner. The sun cut through the blinds in sharp lines across my studio. Outside, the Tenderloin was waking up car horns, someone shouting the rattle of a delivery truck. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, opened my phone. The last text I'd sent Jessica was still there. Sent $3,000. Love you, sweetheart. Her reply from yesterday. Got it. Thanks. I took a breath. Dialed her number. It rang 3 times. Then the call cut off. Call declined. I stared at the screen. Tried again. Same thing. 3 rings. Declined. My phone buzzed. A text. Jessica, I'm in a meeting. I'll call you back. I typed a reply. No problem, sweetheart. Call whenever. Hit send. Then I waited. I showered, made instant coffee, ate a bowl of oatmeal standing at the counter, checked my phone every 5 minutes. No callback. By noon, I told myself she was busy. Marketing job. Meetings all day. She'd call during lunch. Lunch came and went. By 3 p.m., I convinced myself she'd call after work. 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Nothing. 6 p.m. Still silence. I sat on the edge of my bed staring at my phone. My thumb hovered over her contact. I could call again. But what if I was bothering her? What if she thought I was needy? I opened a new text message. Typed, I love you. My thumb hung over the send button. I stared at those 3 words. 2 minutes passed. The streetlight outside flickered on. Then I deleted it. She didn't need me cluttering up her phone. She'd call when she had time. I put the phone down, turned on the TV, some old Western. I didn't watch it. I just stared at my phone on the coffee table, willing it to ring. It didn't. 8 p.m. I gave up, set the phone on the nightstand, lay back on the bed staring at the crack in the ceiling. Maybe she's really busy, I thought. Next week will be better. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't discover until months later, after everything fell apart, was what my daughter was actually doing while I waited by the phone. Months later, I'd find old messages in my phone backup. The kind you don't think to check until you're looking for answers. The kind that sit in the cloud, archived, forgotten. I found 3 text messages I'd sent her over the past 2 months. 3 messages that showed as delivered. But when I checked the read receipts enabled on both our phones since she was in college, I saw the truth. Delivered. Not read. Deleted. She'd deleted my messages without opening them. I scrolled further through the backup. Found a conversation thread I'd never seen. Messages between Jessica and someone named Harrison Blackwell. Harrison, lunch tomorrow. My parents want to meet you soon. They're excited. Jessica, Dad's traveling right now. Maybe next month Dad's traveling. I stared at that line. I hadn't traveled anywhere in 5 years. The last trip I took was a Greyhound bus to Sacramento for a veteran's funeral. That was 2019. I kept scrolling. Found more. Harrison. When can I meet your dad? You talk about him like he's a legend. Jessica. He's very low-key. Doesn't like big social events. I'll ask him about dinner sometime. I closed the backup, opened my bank statements. This part I could see in real time. Every month, like clockwork, I sent Jessica $3,000. I'd been doing it for 10 years, ever since she graduated MIT and moved to San Francisco. She'd said it helped with rent, with bills, with getting started. I pulled up the statement from February, scrolled through her withdrawal history. The account was joint set up years ago, so I could transfer money easily. There it was. Monthly rent payment, $4,500, $4,500, for an apartment in the Marina District. I Googled the address listed on the payment. Pulled up the building. Glass facade. Rooftop deck. Views of the Golden Gate Bridge. The kind of place I'd walk past and never imagine going inside. The math didn't add up. I sent her $3,000 a month. Her salary she'd mentioned once casually was around $7,000 a month after taxes. $10,000 total. Minus $4,500 in rent left her $5,500. That was plenty. She didn't need my money. But she kept taking it. I kept digging. Found her social media accounts. I didn't use them much, barely knew how they worked, but I could see her public posts. One from January. Coffee with my favorite ladies. Blessed to have grown up with such strong role models. Dad taught me to work hard and stay humble. He invests in real estate up in Napa Valley, super low-key lifestyle, but he's brilliant with money. Grateful for his advice. I read it 3 times. Real estate. Napa Valley. Brilliant with money. I cleaned toilets. I mopped floors. I lived in a 400-square-foot studio in the worst neighborhood in San Francisco and drove a car older than most of her friends. But to her social media friends, I was a real estate investor in wine country. I sat back in my chair, this was months later after everything, and tried to piece it together. The deleted messages, the lies to Harrison, the fake stories online, the apartment she couldn't afford without my help, but pretended she could. My daughter wasn't just busy on March 14th, 2024. She was hiding me. But on that Thursday night, sitting alone in my apartment at 8 p.m., I didn't know any of this. I just stared at my silent phone and told myself the same lie I'd been telling myself for months. She's busy. She'll call next week. Things will get better. I set the phone on the nightstand, closed my eyes, and tried to believe it. 3 months passed like water through my hands. I called Jessica twice in April, once in May. Got voicemails each time. Got back 3 texts, total busy. Talk soon. I kept sending $3,000 on the 1st of every month. Kept getting 2-word replies. Got it. Thanks. I told myself she was building a career, finding her footing in the city. She'd come around. Friday night, June 21st, 2024, 7 p.m. I was on the 5th floor of Vertex Technologies, pushing a mop across the tile in long, methodical strokes. The building was empty. Just me, the hum of the ventilation system, and the city lights starting to glow through the windows as the sun set over the Pacific. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. Saw her name. Jessica, Dad. Can you send money to the old account? My heart jumped. I dropped the mop. Sat down right there on the wet floor, pulled up my banking app with shaking hands. Typed in 3,000. Hit transfer. Transfer initiated. Processing. 10 seconds. The longest 10 seconds of my life. Transfer completed $3,000. 00. I typed back immediately. Done, sweetheart. Everything okay? 3 dots appeared. She was typing. Jessica. Yes. Thank you. That was it. 4 words, but they were 4 more than I'd gotten all month. I stared at the screen, at the notification transfer completed $3,000, at her name, at those 2 sentences that felt like a lifeline. I picked up the mop, went back to work. Told myself the same thing I'd been telling myself for months. As long as she's happy. That's all that matters. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't find out until much later after the world came crashing down, was what my $3,000 was paying for that night. Months later, after everything fell apart, Harrison Blackwell sat across from me in a coffee shop in North Beach. His face was hollow. He'd lost weight. He looked 10 years older than the man I'd see in photos. "I need you to understand something," he said. "That night, June 21st, I thought I'd found the woman I was going to marry." He told me the story. I listened, and with every word, another piece of my heart crumbled. That night, the French Laundry, Napa Valley. Harrison had made the reservation 3 months in advance. The French Laundry, 3 Michelin stars, $400 a plate, the kind of place you propose at. He picked Jessica up at 6, drove his Tesla up Highway 101 through Marin over the Golden Gate into wine country as the sun painted the hills gold. They sat at a corner table, white tablecloth, candles, a sommelier who recommended a Napa Cabernet that cost more than my monthly rent. Harrison was nervous. He'd brought his parents, William and Eleanor Blackwell. This was the big introduction, the meet the parents dinner. The one that meant this was serious. "So, Jessica," Eleanor said, smiling over her wine glass, "tell us about your family. Harrison says your mother passed away." Jessica nodded, took a sip of water. When she spoke, her voice was soft, sad. "My mother passed when I was young. My father raised me alone." That part was technically true. Her mother had left when Jessica was 3, packed a bag one morning in 1999 and walked out the door. I never heard from her again. I'd raised Jessica by myself, worked double shifts, learned to braid hair from YouTube videos, showed up to every parent-teacher conference in my janitor uniform. But then Jessica said something else. "My father passed away 2 years ago. Car accident." Harrison reached across the table, took her hand. "I'm so sorry." William Blackwell, 53 years old, CEO of Blackwell Defense. A man who'd built a military contracting empire from nothing, leaned back in his chair. He had silver hair, sharp eyes, the kind of presence that commanded a room. "I'm sorry for your loss," he said. "Losing a parent it changes you." Jessica nodded, tears in her eyes, real tears. Harrison told me later he'd never seen her so vulnerable. "He sounds like he was a good man," William continued. "What did he do for a living?" Jessica hesitated, just for a second. Then, "He was a consultant. Financial planning. Very low-key. He didn't like attention." William smiled. "Smart man. I respect that." Then William did something Harrison said he rarely did. He told a personal story. "You know," William said, "when I was 18 years old, I thought I was hot stuff. Joined the Marines in 1990. Thought I knew everything. Then I met this instructor at Camp Pendleton. Toughest son of a gun I ever met. He broke me down to nothing. Then built me back up. Made me the man I am today." William stared into his wine glass. "I don't remember his name. It was 34 years ago. But I think about him sometimes. Wish I could find him, thank him, tell him how much he shaped my life." Jessica smiled politely, changed the subject. Harrison leaned across the table, looked into her eyes. "You're going to be the perfect wife someday," he said. Harrison told me later that Jessica blushed, squeezed his hand, said thank you. He told me he'd already bought a ring, back to me that night. I didn't know any of this. I was sitting in the basement janitor room at Vertex Technologies, eating a turkey sandwich from a gas station, staring at my phone. Transfer completed $3,000. I thought about texting her again, asking how she was. what she was doing tonight. But I didn't want to be annoying, didn't want to be the needy dad who couldn't let go. So I just sat there, finished my sandwich, clocked out at 11, drove my Civic home through empty streets. The radio played old country songs, Hank Williams, Johnny Cash, songs about loneliness and highways and people who left. I parked outside my building in the Tenderloin, sat in the car for a minute, looked at my phone one more time. No new messages. I went inside, climbed the stairs to my studio, lay down on the bed without taking off my uniform. At least she still texts me, I thought. At least I'm still part of her life. I didn't know my daughter had just told her boyfriend, the man she was planning to marry, that I was gone. I didn't know she'd erased me. Sunday night, October 13th, 2024, 6 p.m. I sat on the edge of my bed, the same bed I'd slept in for 15 years, eating instant noodles from a styrofoam cup. 99 cents at the corner store. Chicken flavor. I'd had the same dinner 3 nights in a row. My phone sat on the nightstand. Screen dark. Silent. I stared at it between bites. Picked it up. Opened my messages. The last text I'd sent Jessica was 4 days ago. Sent $3,000. Love you, sweetheart. Her reply. Got it. Thanks. I started typing, have you had dinner yet? My thumb hovered over send. I read it 3 times. Then I deleted it. Put the phone back down. She was busy. She had a life. She didn't need her old man checking in on her eating habits like she was still 12 years old. I finished the noodles, threw the cup in the trash, lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling crack. The one shaped like the Mississippi River. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't learn until months later after everything came crashing down, was where my daughter was that night. Months later, Eleanor Blackwell sat in my apartment. She'd insisted on coming, said she needed to see how I lived. She sat in my only chair, a folding one from Target, holding a cup of tea I'd made with a microwave and a chipped mug, and she told me about the night of October 13th. She cried while she told me. I'm not sure I've ever seen someone look so ashamed. That night, the Blackwell Mansion, Pacific Heights. Jessica arrived at 7 p.m. Eleanor said she looked stunning, navy dress, hair done, the kind of polish that comes from money. But Eleanor didn't know the truth. Didn't know that dress had been bought with money I'd sent. Didn't know Jessica lived in a $4,500 a month apartment in the Marina District paid for with my $3,000 plus her $7,000 salary. Didn't know Jessica was walking into that mansion wearing a lie. The Blackwell house was something out of a magazine. 4 stories, Victorian architecture, views of the bay. The dining room had a table that sat 12. Crystal chandelier. China that had been in William's family for 3 generations. 4 people sat down to dinner that night. William Blackwell, 53 years old, CEO of Blackwell Defense, a man who'd built a $100 million military contracting company from nothing. Eleanor, 51, on the board of the San Francisco Symphony, gracious and warm. Harrison, their son, 33, sitting next to Jessica with his hand on hers. And Jessica, 29 years old, my daughter, playing a part. Jessica, William said, cutting into his steak. Tell us about your father. Harrison says you don't talk about him much. Eleanor told me Jessica's smile didn't waver, didn't even flicker. My father is a financial consultant, Jessica said smoothly. Very low-key. He works in Napa Valley real estate investments mostly. He's extremely private, doesn't like publicity. William nodded. Smart man. I respect that. In my business, the more you talk, the more trouble you get into. Your father sounds like someone I'd get along with. When can we meet him? Eleanor asked. We'd love to have him over for dinner. Jessica took a sip of water. He travels quite a bit. He's out of the country right now, actually. Maybe during the holidays. Eleanor said she'd never heard anyone lie so effortlessly. The conversation moved on. Wine, politics, Harrison's work. Then William leaned back in his chair and told a story. You know, William said, looking at Jessica, when I was younger, just a kid, really, I joined the Marines. Thought I was tough. Thought I knew everything. He swirled his wine, stared into it. I had this mentor, this instructor, toughest man I ever met. He didn't coddle us, didn't tell us we were special. He broke us down to nothing. Then he built us back up. Everything I am today, the discipline, the work ethic, the ability to lead, I learned from him. William looked up, met Jessica's eyes. I don't remember his name anymore. It's been so long. But I think about him sometimes. Wish I could find him. Thank him. Tell him how much he shaped my life. Harrison squeezed Jessica's hand. Your dad sounds like a wise man. I really want to meet him. Jessica smiled, said thank you. Eleanor told me later that Jessica's hand was shaking. Back to me. That night. I didn't know any of this. I was lying on my bed in the Tenderloin at 10:30 p.m. when my phone finally buzzed. One missed call. Jessica, then a text. Jessica, I'm tired. Going to bed early. Talk later, Dad. I sat up, typed immediately. Good night, sweetheart. Love you. I waited for a reply. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. 15. Nothing. I set the phone down, turned off the light, lay there in the dark, listening to sirens wail past on the street below. Maybe next time, I thought. Maybe tomorrow she'll call. What I didn't know was that October 13th was just the beginning. From that night until early February, 122 days, I tried to reach my daughter 8 times. October 25th, I called. Got voicemail. Left a message, just checking in, sweetheart. November 15th, called. She declined. December 8th, called. Declined again. December 25th, Christmas. I called and left a voicemail. Merry Christmas, sweetheart. I love you. Hope you're having a good day. January 1st, 2025. New Year. Called to wish her a happy new year. Declined. January 20th. Voicemail. February 5th. Declined. In those 4 months, I got 3 text messages back. Busy. Will call soon. Love you too, Dad. 15 words total. I kept sending $3,000 on the 1st of every month. November 1st, December 1st, January 1st, February 1st, like clockwork. Got back the same 2-word responses. Got it. Thanks. I told myself she was overwhelmed. Building a career. Building a life. She'd come around when things settled down. I didn't know she was building something else, something that didn't include me. Wednesday night, February 12th, 2025. 10 p.m. I was on my knees on the 42nd floor of Vertex Technologies scrubbing a coffee stain out of the carpet near the conference room when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I sat back on my heels, pulled it out, saw her name. Jessica, Dad, can you call me tomorrow morning? I stared at the screen. Read it 3 times to make sure it was real. It was the first message I'd gotten from her in 2 weeks. The first time in 4 months she'd asked me to call her, instead of me begging for scraps of her attention. Since October, since that Sunday night, I'd sat alone eating 99-cent noodles. I'd called her 8 times. Got voicemail or declined calls. Got back 3 text messages total. 15 words. Busy. Will call soon. Love you too, Dad. I'd sent $3,000 on the first of every month like clockwork. November, December, January, February. Got back the same 2 words every time. Got it. Thanks. But this was different. She wants to talk to me. My hands shook as I typed back, "Of course, sweetheart." 9 a.m. 3 dots appeared immediately. Jessica, 10 a.m. better. Thanks, Dad. I smiled so wide my face hurt. I finished my shift at 2 a.m., drove home through empty streets with the radio turned up, singing along to songs I didn't know the words to, got to my apartment at 3 in the morning, and lay on my bed, fully clothed, still in my janitor uniform staring at the ceiling. I couldn't sleep. Couldn't stop smiling. 10 a.m. My daughter wanted to talk. Maybe she missed me. Maybe she finally had time. Maybe things were getting better. I set my alarm for 9, closed my eyes, tried to calm down. Tomorrow, I thought. Tomorrow, I'll hear her voice. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't discover until months later, after the gala, after everything exploded, was what my daughter was actually planning. Months later, a woman named Margaret Walsh came to see me. 45 years old, senior attorney at a corporate litigation firm in the financial district. Sharp suit, sharp eyes, the kind of person who didn't waste time. She sat in my apartment, my tiny tenderloin studio that smelled like cleaning products, because that's what I smelled like, and she opened her laptop. "Mr. Thompson," she said, "I need to show you something. It's going to hurt, but you need to see it." She turned the screen toward me. Email draft. Saved but never sent. Recovered from Jessica Thompson's company email server during a routine IT audit. To info Elite talent casting. Come date February 10th, 2025. Subject urgent casting request. Professional actor needed. Hello, I need a professional actor for a private event. Male, 55 to 60 years old. The role is to portray a wealthy father at 2 events, a family dinner in July and a charity gala in September 2025. Character profile: Robert Hayes. Stanford MBA, graduated 1989. Real estate investor based in Napa Valley. Widower, wife passed in 2010. 1 daughter. Net worth approximately $3 to $5 million, but very low-key lifestyle. Personality: quiet, private, doesn't seek attention. Fee negotiable: $5,000 to $10,000, depending on experience. NDA required. Absolute discretion essential. Please respond ASAP. Best regards, Jessica Thompson. I stared at the email, read it twice, looked up at Margaret. She hired someone to pretend to be me. Margaret's face was stone. Keep reading. She clicked to another file, a spreadsheet, Excel, Jessica's own budget calculations. At the top of the sheet, in Jessica's handwriting in the notes column, it said, "Budget plan, actor hire." Below that, she'd listed everything. $8,000 saved from my transfers, November through January, 3 months, $3,000 per month. She'd taken 8 of the 9,000 I'd sent and set it aside. Another 2,000 borrowed from her Chase Visa credit card. Total available $10,000. The actor's fee, $10,000, split into $5,000 upfront and $5,000 after the gala. And at the bottom, under a row labeled backup plan, there was just a blank space. She hadn't figured that part out yet. I felt sick. $8,000. Money I'd sent her. Money I'd scraped together working night shifts, mopping floors and cleaning toilets. Money I'd sent because I thought she needed help with rent, with bills, with living. She'd been saving it to hire a fake father. "There's more," Margaret said quietly. She opened another file, a screenshot from a phone backup. Jessica's Notes app. Note created February 11th, 2025, 11:47 p.m. Nobody will know. Clean break after the gala. He'll understand someday. He has to. I sat back, put my head in my hands. Mr. Thompson, Margaret said. I'm the attorney for the charity foundation that runs the gala. When we audited the scholarship fund and found irregularities tied to Jessica's account, we were legally required to investigate. This came up during the digital forensics sweep. I'm so sorry. I didn't say anything. Couldn't. The email was never sent, Margaret continued. She must have changed her mind about using that agency, used a different one. But the intent is clear. She planned this, budgeted for it, saved money you sent her, money you earned cleaning buildings at night. I looked up. Why are you telling me this now? Why not before the gala? Because I didn't find it until after, she said. The audit started in October. We didn't finish until November. By then, you already knew. That was the truth. By November 2025, the gala had already happened. My daughter's lies had already unraveled on stage in front of 400 people. But sitting there in my apartment in February 2025, the night she'd asked me to call her at 10 a.m., I didn't know any of this. I was lying in my bed at 3:30 in the morning on February 13th, smiling in the dark, thinking about how my daughter finally wanted to talk to me. I didn't know she wanted to ask me not to go to the gala. I didn't know she'd already found someone to replace me. I didn't know I was the problem she was trying to solve. I just lay there in my janitor uniform, too excited to sleep, thinking 10 a.m. I'll call my little girl. Things are finally getting better. Wednesday afternoon, March 5th, 2025. 3 p.m. I stood on the 47th floor of Vertex Technologies, squeegee in hand, wiping down the floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over San Francisco. The financial district stretched below glass towers, the Bay Bridge glinting ferries cutting white lines across the water. I thought about this morning. 10 a.m., Jessica had actually picked up. Dad, I'm doing great, just busy with work. Love you. 90 seconds. Then she was gone. I told myself it was progress. She'd picked up. She'd said she loved me. Take what you can get, I thought. What I didn't know was what was happening at that exact moment 20 miles south. Months later, a man named David Torres sat across from me in a North Beach cafe. 55 years old, gray hair, thin, the kind of face you'd forget in 5 minutes. When she first approached me, David said, I thought it was a joke. Nobody hires actors for real life. But Jessica had. And David told me everything. That afternoon. Blue Bottle Cafe, Financial District. David arrived at 3 p.m. The cafe was crowded, tech workers, tourists photographing lattes. He spotted Jessica at a corner table, navy suit, hair pulled back, a manila envelope in front of her. She stood, shook his hand. Professional. Mr. Torres, thank you for coming. I saw your work at the Shelton Theater. You were excellent. David had played small regional roles for years. Barely made $20,000 annually. Your message said you needed an actor, he asked. Jessica slid the envelope across the table. Open it. Inside a typed dossier. Character profile Robert Hayes, age 58. Stanford MBA 1989. Real estate investor Napa Valley. Widower wife past 2010. One daughter. Net worth $3 to $5 million. Low-key lifestyle. Drives Lexus. Wears Brooks Brothers. Plays golf. David read it twice. Is this for a film? No, Jessica said. Real life. I need you to play this role at 2 events. a family dinner in July, a charity gala in September. You'll convince my boyfriend's family that you're my father. David set the dossier down. Where's your real father? Jessica's jaw tightened. My real father isn't someone I can introduce to my boyfriend's family. Why not? She looked away. He's a janitor. He cleans office buildings at night. He's not educated. He didn't go to college. He drives a 2008 car. He lives in a Tenderloin studio. My boyfriend's family has expectations. He wouldn't fit in. So you're ashamed of him? I'm being realistic, she snapped. Then softer, it's better this way. David sat back. 30 years of acting, community theater, bit parts. Never made more than $20,000 in a year. So what's the pay? Jessica slid a second envelope across the table. Heavier. $5,000. Cash. Now. David opened it. $50 bills. 5,000 more after the gala, Jessica continued. Plus expenses. But you sign an NDA. You tell no one. Violate it, you return all fees and pay damages. She pulled out a document, 3 pages, single-spaced. David thought about his rent. 3 months late. His car. Repo notice last week. He picked up the pen, signed, counted the bills, folded them into his pocket, shook her hand. When do we start? Jessica smiled for the first time. Tomorrow. We have 4 months. By September 5th, you need to be Robert Hayes. Completely. David nodded, walked out with $5,000 in his pocket, and wondered what kind of father could make a daughter hate him that much. Back to me. That afternoon. I didn't know any of this. I was still on the 47th floor finishing the last window when my phone buzzed at 3:30. Jessica, Dad busy this week. Talk later. Love you. I smiled, typed back. Take your time, sweetheart. I'm here whenever you need me. 5:30 p.m. I packed up my squeegee spray bottles rags, loaded everything into the cart. Took the service elevator down, walked to my Civic in the parking garage, drove home through rush hour. At a red light on Market Street, I looked at my phone on the passenger seat. Her message still glowing. Love you. At least she said love you, I thought. That's something. March through May. 12 weeks. 84 days. I kept working my night shifts. Kept mopping floors on the 42nd through 47th stories of Vertex Technologies. Kept sending $3,000 on the 1st of every month. March, 1st April, 1st May, 1st like clockwork. Kept calling my daughter. Kept getting silence. What I didn't know was that while I waited by the phone, someone else was learning how to become me. Months later, after the gala, after everything collapsed, David Torres sat in my apartment with a spiral notebook, worn, coffee-stained, pages filled with his handwriting. This is everything, he said. Every week, every lesson, everything Jessica made me memorize. He opened it. Let me read. Week 1, March 7th to 13th, 2025. Day 1, San Francisco Public Library, 5th floor financial section. Jessica's assignment, learn the basics. P/E ratios, cap rates, REITs, Napa Valley wine country real estate trends. Day 3, Jessica sends me a 50-page document. Robert Hayes' complete backstory. Born Palo Alto, 1967. Stanford undergrad, then MBA. Graduated 1989. Worked at Merrill Lynch, 1989 to 1995. Left to start Hayes Capital Management. She made this up. Doesn't exist. Wife Margaret. Met at Stanford. Married 1990. She got cancer. Passed in 2010. 1 daughter. Jessica Thompson. I'm supposed to memorize all of this. Make it real. Make it mine. Week 3. March 21st to 27th, shopping day. Jessica takes me to Nordstrom, buys me a Tom Ford suit. Gray. $2,000. I've never worn anything that expensive in my life. She makes me walk in it, sit in it, stand in it. You're a CIO, she says. Act like one. Omega watch. $500. It's fake, but it looks real. Toomey briefcase. $300. Cole Haan shoes. $250. She teaches me how to shake hands. Firm. 3 seconds of eye contact. Not too long, not too short. You're confident, she says, but not arrogant. You've made your money. You don't need to prove anything. Week 5. April 4th to 10th. We meet 3 times this week, different cafes. She drills me. Her dad housed the market, me choppy. The feds being hawkish. I'm rotating into municipals. Her good, but say it slower. You're not in a hurry. You have all the time in the world. We practice for 2 hours. Same questions, different answers. She corrects my posture, my tone, the way I hold my coffee cup. Everything. You can't mess this up, she says. Harrison's family is smart. They'll notice if you're off. Week 8, April 25th. May 1st, golf lessons. Online videos. I've never golfed in my life. Jessica says I don't need to be good. Just need to look like I've done it. Know the terms. Handicap, birdie, par, backswing. She quizzes me on Stanford's MBA program. 1987 to 1989. Before the internet. Before everything was online. Hard to fact-check. She's smart. Picked a time period that's fuzzy. She makes me memorize Napa restaurants. The French Laundry, Auberge du Soleil, La Toque, Meadowood, the restaurant at Meadowood. I'm supposed to talk about them like I've been there 100 times. You're low-key wealthy, she says. You don't brag, but people know. They can tell. Week 10, May 9th to 15th, full dress rehearsal. We're in her apartment. She makes me sit at her dining table. She plays herself, then she plays Harrison. Then she plays Harrison's father, her as Harrison's dad. Mr. Hayes, what do you think about the defense sector, me, volatile? But Blackwell Defense has strong fundamentals. I admire your hedging strategy during the 2020 downturn. A lot of firms panicked. You didn't. She smiles. First time in weeks. Perfect. Say exactly that. We go through 20 different scenarios. What if they ask about Margaret? What if they ask about my business? What if they want to visit Napa? She has an answer for everything. But you're my father, she says. You have to be perfect. Week 12. May 23rd to 30, final run-through. I'm wearing the suit, the watch, the shoes. I'm sitting like a CEO, talking like a CEO. I know the backstory forward and backward. Stanford MBA 1989. Merrill Lynch. Hayes Capital Management. Margaret. Cancer. 2010. Jessica sits across from me, studies me, doesn't say anything for 5 minutes. Then, you're ready. I closed the notebook, looked at David. She spent 12 weeks, I said. 12 weeks turning you into me. Into someone better than you, David said quietly. That's what she told me. He's a good man, but he's not someone I can show them. You are. I didn't say anything. Couldn't, because while David was learning to be Robert Hayes, I was learning what it felt like to disappear. My 12 weeks. March 7th to May 30th, 2025. March 1st. I sent $3,000. Texted "Love you, sweetheart." Got back 2 words. Got it. Thanks. March 10th. I called. She declined. Texted in a meeting. March 18th. Called again. Voicemail. I left a message. Just checking in, Con. Hope work's going well. Miss you. No response. April 1st. Sent 3,000. Texted, "How's work?" 6 hours later. Good, busy, April 12th. She answered. 4 minutes. Longest conversation we'd had in months. Dad, I'm swamped. Can I call you back? Of course, sweetheart. She never called back. May 1st. Sent 3,000. May 20th. Called. Voicemail. Miss you, Con. Haven't heard your voice in weeks. Just want to make sure you're okay. No response. May 30th. I sent my 47th unanswered text. Just want to know you're okay. Nothing. I called 9 times over those 12 weeks. She answered twice. 4 minutes total. The other 7 times went to voicemail. I sent 3 texts. Love you. How's work? Just want to know you're okay. Got back 6 words total. Got it. Thanks. Good. Busy. And I kept sending money. $3,000 on the 1st of every month, because that's what fathers do. They provide. They wait. They hope. I didn't know my money was paying for the suit David wore, the watch, the shoes, the briefcase, the lessons, everything she needed to replace me. I just lay in bed on the night of May 30th, staring at my phone at the 47 unanswered messages, and told myself the same thing I'd been telling myself for 12 weeks. She's busy. She's building a life. She'll come around. 12 weeks. My daughter more distant than ever. But I was still here. Monday morning, June 2nd, 2025. 9:30 a.m. I was in the basement break room eating a gas station breakfast burrito and scrolling through 3-day-old messages from Jessica, all unanswered, when the phone on the wall rang. Not my cell phone. The old landline. The one that only rang when management needed something. I picked it up. Night crew. Marcus speaking. Marcus. The voice was familiar. Formal. This is Richard Harmon. Can you come to my office, 47th floor? I almost dropped the phone. Richard Harmon, the CEO, calling me directly. Sir, is everything okay? Did I do something wrong? No, nothing like that. I just need to speak with you. Are you free now? I looked down at my janitor uniform. Navy blue, sweat-stained. My name stitched over the pocket in faded thread. I'm not really dressed for... You're fine, just come up, please. The line went dead. I stood there for 10 seconds, heart pounding. In 5 years of working at Vertex, I'd never been called to the executive floor during business hours. Never been asked to Richard Harmon's office. Night crew stayed invisible. That was the deal. I threw the burrito wrapper in the trash, wiped my hands on my pants, took the elevator up. The 47th floor was different during the day. Bright. Busy. People in suits moving between glass-walled conference rooms. I felt like an alien, a janitor in a world of executives. Richard's assistant. A young woman with perfect hair and a headset smiled at me. Mr. Thompson, he's expecting you. Go right in. I knocked. Heard come in. Pushed open the door. Richard stood behind his desk. 56 years old. Silver hair. sharp suit. The kind of man who commanded rooms just by existing. But when he saw me, he smiled, came around the desk, extended his hand. "Marcus, thank you for coming. Please, sit." He gestured to one of the leather chairs across from his desk. I sat, felt the leather creak under me, felt completely out of place. Richard sat across from me, leaned forward. His face was serious. "I need to ask you something," he said, "and I need you to say yes." He pulled an envelope from his desk drawer. Thick, cream-colored. My name written on it in gold calligraphy. I opened it. Inside an invitation, printed on cardstock so thick it felt like wood. "Heroes Among Us, a benefit gala for Bay Area veterans, Friday, September 5th, 2025, 6 o'clock p.m., Riverside Grand Ballroom, San Francisco, California, 5 IP, guest of honor, Marcus Thompson." I read it twice, looked up. "Sir, I think there's a mistake." "No mistake. But I'm just Marcus." Richard's voice was firm, serious. "You saved my life." I set the invitation down. "Sir, that was 21 years ago. I was just doing my job." "Fallujah," Richard said. "March 15th, 2004. Do you remember? I didn't want to." But I nodded. "Our convoy hit an IED." Richard continued. "The Humvee in front of us flipped, caught fire. I was in the back seat. My leg was pinned. Smoke was filling the cabin. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I thought I was done." He looked at me. His eyes were wet. "You pulled me out. You ran into the fire. Your body armor was smoking. You took shrapnel to your shoulder." He pointed at my left shoulder. I'd worn a t-shirt under my uniform. The scar was visible. Jagged. White. 4 inches long. "I was 35 years old," Richard said. "You gave me 21 more years. A wife, 2 kids, this company. Everything I have because of you." I didn't know what to say. The memories came back. Always did. Black smoke, screaming. The smell of burning fuel and melted plastic. I'd seen Richard through the window, young Lieutenant Harmon trapped panicking, and I'd moved without thinking. Ran to the Humvee, pulled the door, jammed, pulled harder. It gave. Reached in, grabbed Richard's vest. Pulled. His leg came free. Dragged him out. 10 feet. 20. Then the heat hit my shoulder. White hot. I looked down. Saw blood. Saw smoke coming off my armor. Then a medic was there, pushing me down, shouting, and everything went black. "I've been looking for you," Richard said, pulling me back to the present. "For years, I knew your name. Marcus Thompson, gunnery sergeant. But after the Corps, you disappeared. No social media, no online presence. Nothing." He leaned back. "When I became CEO of Vertex 3 years ago, I did something crazy. I hired every janitorial company in San Francisco. Every single one. Put them on rotating contracts. Told them I was looking for someone, a veteran, a Marine, named Marcus Thompson." I stared at him. "You hired janitorial companies to find me. Last year I saw your name on the payroll, Marcus Thompson. Night shift. I couldn't believe it. I pulled your file, checked your Marine record. You're decorated, Marcus. Bronze Star, Purple Heart. 2 tours in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan, and you're cleaning toilets in my building." "I like the work," I said quietly. "It's honest." "Bullshit." Richard's voice was sharp, then softer. You're too humble, you always were. But this gala, it's for veteran causes. We raise money, help guys who are struggling, and I want to honor you. Publicly. 400 guests. $500 a plate. You'll sit at the head table. I'll tell your story. I'll tell them what you did for me. I looked at the invitation, at my name in gold letters. Sir, I'm just a janitor. Nobody cares about... I care. Richard's voice cracked. And after this gala, everyone else will too. Please, Marcus, say yes. I sat there, thought about Jessica, about how she hadn't called me back in weeks, about how distant she'd become, about how, maybe if she knew I was being honored, if she knew people cared, if she knew I was more than just the janitor father she was ashamed of, maybe she'd be proud. Okay, I said. I'll come. Richard's face broke into a smile. He stood, extended his hand. I stood, shook it. Thank you, Marcus. This means the world to me. I left his office at 11:30, held the invitation in my hand like it was made of glass. Took the elevator down to the basement, pulled out my phone, dialed Jessica. It rang and rang. Then voicemail. Hey, this is Jessica. Leave a message. Sweetheart. I said, my voice shaking with excitement. It's Dad. I have good news. Really good news. Can you call me back? I want to tell you something. Love you. I hung up. Looked at the invitation again. September 5th, 3 months away. I imagined Jessica sitting next to me at the head table, watching me get honored, seeing people stand and applaud, seeing that her father wasn't just a janitor, that he'd done something, that he mattered. Maybe this will change things, I thought. Maybe she'll finally be proud. Saturday evening, July 12th, 2025, 6:30 p.m. I sat alone in my apartment eating cold pizza straight from the box. 4 slices left over from Thursday night. The cheese had gone rubbery, the crust stiff. I didn't bother heating it up. Outside my window, the tenderloin buzzed with its usual Saturday chaos, car horns, distant sirens, someone shouting in the street below. On my lap sat a worn photo album. I opened it slowly, turning pages I'd memorized years ago. Jessica at 5 wearing a pink princess dress for Halloween. Her mother had made it by hand. The smile on her face, pure, unguarded joy. Jessica at 10, first day of 5th grade backpack, almost as big as she was, standing on our old apartment steps. She'd waved at me before running to catch the bus. Jessica at 22, MIT graduation. That photo I'd taken myself. June 9th, 2018. I drove 6 hours from San Francisco to Cambridge, Massachusetts. Left at 3 a.m., arrived just before 9 a.m. Parked 3 blocks away, walked to Harvard Yard. The ceremony was held nearby. I stood outside the fence 200 yards back behind a tree. I'd bought a cheap phone with a camera just for that day. Through the crowd, I saw her. Black graduation robes, gold honor cords. She tossed her cap into the air with 400 other students. I snapped the photo. Blurry distant, but it was her. She never invited me. Never told me the date. I found out from a postcard the university had mailed to my address by mistake. I didn't approach her, didn't wave. I knew she didn't want me there. I just wanted to see her. One moment. Then I drove 6 hours home. Now, 7 years later, I stared at that same blurry photo. My phone buzzed. 6:45 p.m. A text from Jessica. Dad, I'm thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. My chest tightened. I set the pizza box aside, read the message 3 times, thinking about me. I typed a reply immediately. I'm good, sweetheart. How are you? Want to grab dinner this week? I hit send, watched the screen, waited. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10, 15, nothing. I set the phone down on the arm of the couch screen facing up, went back to the photo album, turned another page. Jessica at 12 holding a science fair trophy. Jessica at 16 prom night standing stiffly beside a boy whose name I never learned. The phone stayed silent. Months later, Eleanor Blackwell told me what had happened that same night. While I sat alone eating cold pizza, my daughter was hosting a dinner party at the Blackwell family villa in Pacific Heights. 6 people around the table. William Blackwell, 53, CEO of Blackwell Defense Systems. Eleanor, his wife, 51, former professor of literature at Stanford. Harrison, their son, 33, vice president of operations. Caroline, 28. Harrison's younger cousin, a lawyer. Jessica, 29. And a man I'd never met. Robert Hayes. That's what Jessica introduced him as. His real name was David Torres, 55 years old, an actor. But that night he played the role of Jessica's father. He wore a tailored gray Tom Ford suit. An Omega Seamaster watch on his left wrist, polished, elegant, expensive-looking. He brought a bottle of Caymus Cabernet Sauvignon Vintage 2018, worth $150. Handed it to Eleanor with a warm smile and a firm handshake. Thank you for having me, Mrs. Blackwell. His voice was smooth, confident. The kind of voice that suggested decades of country clubs and boardrooms. They sat down at 6:30 p.m. The dining room was enormous. Crystal chandelier, mahogany table that could seat 12. China plates older than I was. Silverware that gleamed under soft golden light. William poured the wine, raised his glass. To family, he said, and to new friendships. Everyone clinked glasses. David, playing Robert Hayes, smiled and nodded. Eleanor asked him about his work. I'm in commercial real estate, David said smoothly. Mostly Napa Valley. Small-scale developments, boutique hotels, vineyard estates, that sort of thing. Low-profile investments. William leaned forward, interested. How did you weather 2008? David didn't hesitate. Badly, he said with a rueful chuckle. Lost about 40% in 2009. Took me nearly 10 years to recover. But I learned a lot. Diversified, got more conservative with my leverage. William nodded approvingly. Smart. A lot of people didn't survive that storm. Eleanor turned to David with a softer expression. Jessica mentioned you're a widower. David's face shifted just slightly. A flicker of practiced sadness. Yes, he said quietly. My wife Margaret passed away in 2010. Cancer. It's been 15 years now, but Jessica's been my anchor through all of it. He glanced at Jessica. She smiled, reached over, squeezed his hand. Eleanor's eyes glistened. You raised a remarkable daughter. I did my best, David said. Harrison spoke up. Did you serve Mr. Hayes? David shook his head. No. I wanted to. But I have a foot condition, old injury from high school football. Got a 4F classification. Never made it past the physical. William nodded. Understood. My father served. Navy. I have a lot of respect for anyone who tried. The conversation moved on. Politics, wine, the economy. David navigated every topic with ease. He laughed at William's jokes, complimented Eleanor's cooking. Spoke about Stanford's MBA program in the late 80s like he'd actually been there. By 10 o'clock p.m., the dinner was winding down. William stood, shook David's hand firmly. "Robert, it's been a pleasure. Let's do this again." "Absolutely," David said. "Thank you again for your hospitality." Jessica walked him to the door. Eleanor watched them go, then turned to William. "He's wonderful," she said softly. "Jessica's so lucky." 10:15 p.m. My phone buzzed. I'd been staring at the MIT photo for over 3 hours. Jessica's reply finally came. "Hey Dad, sorry, crazy week. Let's try for dinner next week. I'll check my schedule and let you know." I read it twice, typed a reply. "Sure, sweetheart. Whenever works for you. Love you." No response. 10:30 p.m. I put the phone down on the couch. Looked back at the MIT graduation photo one more time. The blurry image of my daughter, 200 yards away, tossing her cap into the air with 400 other students. She was busy building her life. I was just part of the past. Sunday evening, July 13th, 2025. 8 p.m. I sat on my couch watching an old Western on TV. John Wayne horses, dusty plains. I wasn't really paying attention. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, a notification from social media. I picked it up. I rarely used the app, only to check Jessica's posts every few weeks. I opened it. A new photo. Posted 2 hours ago. Jessica and a man I'd never seen before. They were sitting at a restaurant. I recognized the background immediately, Quince, a high-end spot in downtown San Francisco. I'd walked past it 100 times on my way to the bus stop. White tablecloths, soft lighting, the kind of place where a single meal costs more than I make in a day. Jessica was smiling, radiant, her hair down a navy dress I'd never seen. The man beside her was older, mid-50s, maybe 60. Silver hair neatly combed, gray suit, expensive-looking, a watch on his wrist that caught the light, polished, elegant. His hand rested on the table near hers. The caption read, "Dinner with Dad." I stared at the screen. Dad. I zoomed in on the man's face. I'd never seen him before in my life. My hands started shaking. I hit the call button, 8:03 p.m. The phone rang once, declined. I typed a message immediately. "Sweetheart, I saw the photo. Who is that man?" I watched the screen. The message showed as delivered. No reply. I waited 5 minutes. 10. 15. Nothing. I called again. Declined. I sent another text. "Jessica, please. I'm confused. Who is he?" Still nothing. I set the phone down. Looked back at the photo. The man's face. The smile. The caption. Dinner with Dad. Week 1. July 13th to 19th. I called 5 times. 4 went to voicemail. 1 was declined while it was ringing. She saw my name and rejected it. I sent 8 text messages. Short ones, long ones, pleading ones. On July 16th, I finally got a reply. "Dad, I'm really busy right now. We'll talk later, okay?" That was it. 13 words. Then silence again. Week 2. July 20th to 26th. I called 4 times. All declined. On July 22nd, I wrote her an email. A long one. I sat at my kitchen table for 2 hours, typing and retyping. "Sweetheart, I'm worried. I don't understand what's happening. The man in the photo, who is he? Why didn't you tell me about him? I'm your father. Please talk to me." I hit send at 11:47 p.m. No reply. Week 3, July 27th to August 2nd. I called 3 times. All declined. On July 30th, I drove to her office, downtown San Francisco, a sleek glass building near the Embarcadero. I'd never been inside before. I arrived at 6 p.m. hoping to catch her as she left work. I walked into the lobby. Marble floors, modern furniture, a security desk near the elevators. A guard in a crisp uniform stopped me. "Excuse me, sir. Do you have an appointment?" "I'm here to see Jessica Thompson," I said. "I'm her father." The guard picked up a phone. Dialed. Waited. "Ms. Thompson. There's a gentleman here to see you. Says he's your father." Pause. "Okay. I'll let him know." He hung up. Looked at me with a polite, neutral expression. "She's in a meeting right now. She asked if you could come back another time." I stood there for a moment. The lobby felt enormous, cold. "Can you tell me when she'll be free?" "I'm sorry, sir. I don't have that information." I nodded, turned around, walked back to my car. I sat in the driver's seat for 20 minutes staring at the building. Then I sent her a text. "I came to your office. Are you avoiding me?" No reply. Week 4. August 3 to 9. Complete silence. I didn't call. Didn't text. I just opened the photo every night before bed and stared at it. Dinner with Dad. The man's face, his silver hair, his expensive suit. Who was he week 5? August 10th to 16th. On August 12th, I called one last time. Declined. I sent a message. "I don't understand what's happening, but I still love you." No reply. On July 10th, I'd received a notification from my banking app. A withdrawal from Jessica's account, the one I'd set up for her years ago, where I deposited money every month. $5,000. I stared at the number. I didn't know what it was for. Rent, tuition. Something else I wanted to ask her, but she wouldn't answer. Week 6 and 7. August 17th to September 1st. I stopped trying. Every night I sat on my couch in the dark, opened my phone, looked at the photo. Dinner with Dad. I thought about the years I'd spent trying to stay in her life, the money I'd sent, the calls she never answered, the texts she ignored, the MIT graduation I attended from 200 yards away. And now this. A stranger sitting beside her, smiling, playing the role I was supposed to have. September 1st, 2025. 11 p.m. I sat in my apartment, lights off, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow I would go to her office again. I would wait as long as it took. I would demand answers. I needed to know the truth. 11:30 p.m. I set an alarm for 4 o'clock p.m. the next day. I'd leave work early, get to her office by 6 o'clock p.m. This time I wouldn't leave until I saw her. I put the phone down, closed my eyes. Enough. I had to see her. Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025. 4:30 p.m. I found my supervisor on the 42nd floor. "I need to leave early today," I said. "Family emergency." He looked up from his clipboard, frowned slightly, then nodded. "Okay. Be back tomorrow on time." "Thank you." I grabbed my jacket, took the elevator down to the basement, clocked out, and walked to my car. The 2008 Honda Civic sat in the employee lot, scratched and faded under the late afternoon sun. I climbed in, started the engine, and drove toward downtown San Francisco. Traffic was heavy. It took me 40 minutes to reach 555 Market Street, Jessica's office building, a sleek glass tower 30 stories high, reflecting the blue sky like a mirror. I parked across the street in a public lot. paid for 2 hours, walked back to my car and sat in the driver's seat windows down watching the building entrance. 5 p.m. People started streaming out. Suits, briefcases, designer handbags. Young professionals laughing, talking on their phones, heading to happy hour. I scanned every face. 5:30. Still no Jessica. 5:45. Then I saw her. She stepped through the glass doors. Black blazer, white blouse, leather bag slung over one shoulder. Her hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail. She looked polished, confident, a woman who belonged in that world of glass towers and expensive coffee. I opened my door and stepped out. Jessica. She froze, turned. Her eyes went wide. Ed, what are you doing here? I walked toward her, crossing the sidewalk. You've been avoiding me for 7 weeks. I had no choice. She glanced around nervously, eyes darting to the people passing by. Dad not here. We can talk later. No. Now. I stopped a few feet away from her. Who is the man in the photo? Just a friend? You wrote dinner with Dad. She said nothing. I took a breath, steadied myself. Jessica, I have good news. The CEO of my company invited me to a gala this Friday, September 5th. I'm being honored. I wanted you to come with me. I thought you'd be proud. Her face went pale. It's this Friday, September 5th. Yes. 6 p.m. Riverside Grand Ballroom. I have a VIP invitation. You can bring Harrison. I'd like to meet him. Her hands started trembling. Dad, I can't go. I'm busy. Busy, what's more important than this? Her voice turned cold. Dad, don't go to that gala. I stared at her. What? You'll embarrass me. The words hit like a slap. I couldn't speak. She kept going, her voice shaking but firm. Dad, you're a janitor. Harrison's family, they're wealthy. His father runs a defense company. His mother sits on the board of the symphony. And you clean toilets. I felt my chest tighten. You're ashamed of me. Tears welled up in her eyes, but her voice stayed hard. You don't understand my world. Harrison and I were getting serious. His family expects a certain kind of father-in-law. And you're not that person. What about the man in the photo? That's none of your business. Did you hire someone to pretend to be me? She flinched. What? No. You're being paranoid. Then why have you been avoiding me? Why won't you let me meet Harrison? Because you don't fit in. I stood there silent, my heart breaking into pieces. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Dad, I love you. But please don't come to the gala. For me. I looked at her. My daughter. The little girl I'd raised since she was 3. The one I'd sent $3,000 to every month for 10 years. The one I'd dropped out of night school for so I could save enough to help with her MIT tuition. And now she was standing in front of me saying, "Don't come." What if I do? I asked quietly. She looked away. Then I won't see you anymore. The words hung in the air. I stared at her, waiting for her to take them back, to say she didn't mean it. She didn't. She turned, walked to her car, a silver Audi A4 parked in the lot behind the building. I'd helped her buy it 2 years ago, sent her an extra $5,000 when she told me she needed a reliable car for work. She got in, started the engine, drove away without looking back. I stood alone in the parking lot. 6:30 p.m. The evening air was cooling, the city lights beginning to flicker on. Around me, people hurried past, heading home, heading to dinner, heading to lives I would never be part of. I walked back to my Civic, sat in the driver's seat, gripped the steering wheel with both hands. My phone was on the passenger seat. I picked it up, opened the photo again, the one from July 13th. Jessica and the silver-haired man at Quince. Dinner with Dad. I zoomed in on his face. The expensive suit, the polished watch, the confident smile. Did you hire someone to pretend to be me? You're being paranoid. Maybe I was. Maybe I wasn't. But I knew one thing for certain. She'd lied to me. For months. Maybe years. And now she was telling me not to come to the one event where I was finally being recognized. Where people would see me as more than just a janitor. Where my daughter might see me the way I'd always hoped she would. As someone worth being proud of. I set the phone down. Stared out the windshield at the city skyline. The towers of glass and steel glowing in the fading light. Friday, September 5th. 6 p.m. I would be there. Not because I wanted to hurt her. Not because I wanted to prove a point. But because she needed to know the truth. I wasn't someone to be ashamed of. 6:45 p.m. I started the engine and drove home. Friday evening, September 5th, 2025. 6 p.m. I drove my 2008 Honda Civic along the waterfront toward Riverside Grand Ballroom. The sun was setting over the bay, casting long shadows across the city. Ahead, I could see the ballroom, a massive glass building, lit from within, glowing like a lantern against the darkening sky. The parking lot was filling up fast. Rows of sleek black sedans, Teslas, Mercedes, BMWs. Valets in red jackets stood at the entrance opening doors, greeting guests with polished smiles. I turned away from the valet line and drove to the far corner of the lot. Found a spot near the back, away from the entrance, away from the cameras and the lights. I didn't want anyone seeing my scratched, faded Civic next to those gleaming machines. I parked, turned off the engine, sat for a moment, hands on the steering wheel. I was wearing the only suit I owned, a navy blue two-piece I'd bought in 2005. It was a little tight across the shoulders now. The fabric was worn at the elbows. My tie had a small tear along the edge. I'd tried to fold it so the tear wouldn't show. My shoes were old black leather, but I'd spent an hour polishing them this morning. They were the best I had. I took a breath, got out, locked the door. 6:15 p.m. I walked toward the entrance. The closer I got, the more out of place I felt. The lobby was enormous. A crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling, 3 stories high, thousands of pieces of glass catching the light. Red carpet stretched from the doors to the ballroom entrance. Guests moved through the space in tuxedos and evening gowns, holding champagne flutes, laughing, shaking hands. I stepped inside. No one looked at me. I walked slowly, trying not to touch anything, trying to blend in. A waiter passed with a tray of champagne. I didn't take one. 6:30 p.m. I reached the ballroom entrance. 2 large doors stood open. Inside, I could see rows of round tables, 40 in total, 10 chairs each. White tablecloths, crystal glasses, gold-rimmed plates. At the front of the room was a large stage with a podium, a massive LED screen behind it, and a banner that read, "Heroes Among Us, Honoring Our Veterans." I scanned the room. The VIP tables were up front, closest to the stage. And there, at the second table from the center, I saw her. Jessica. She wore a navy blue dress, sleeveless, elegant. Her hair was pulled back. She looked beautiful. Sitting beside her was a man in a black Armani suit. Tall, dark hair slicked back. Harrison Blackwell. 33 years old. I'd never seen him in person before. On Jessica's other side sat a silver-haired man in a gray Tom Ford suit. an Omega watch on his wrist. He was talking to an older man across the table, William Blackwell, I assumed. The silver-haired man. The one from the photo. That's the fake father. Jessica turned her head. Our eyes met. Her face went pale. She stood up abruptly, leaving her purse on the table, and walked quickly toward me. 6:35 p.m. She reached me, grabbed my sleeve, pulled me aside. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "I was invited," I said quietly. "VIP guest of honor." No. You have to leave, right now." "Jessica, I can't leave. Richard invited me." She glanced around, panic in her eyes. People were starting to notice. She grabbed my arm and pulled me out of the ballroom down a side hallway toward the coat check area. 6:47 p.m. The coat check room was empty. Rows of coats hung on metal racks. The air smelled like wool and perfume. Jessica turned to face me. Her hands were shaking. "Dad," she whispered. Please don't say you know me." I stared at her. "What?" "When they introduce you on stage, pretend you don't know me. Please." "Jessica, Dad Harrison is here. His parents are here. The man sitting with us, he's supposed to be my father. If you say you're my dad, everything falls apart. My relationship, my job, my life. Please." Tears started rolling down her cheeks. Her mascara was smearing. I looked at my daughter, the little girl I'd raised, the woman I'd sacrificed everything for. "You want me to pretend I don't know you?" She sobbed. "Just tonight. After tonight we'll talk. I promise. But tonight, please." I stood there in silence. 10 seconds. 20. My heart was breaking, but I nodded. "Okay?" She threw her arms around me, fast, tight, 2 seconds, then pulled away. "Thank you, Dad. I'm sorry." She turned and ran back toward the ballroom. I stood alone in the coat check room, 6:50 p.m. The coats hung silently around me, expensive fabrics, designer labels. I stared at them, feeling like I was drowning. This is the last thing she'll ever ask of me. And I said yes. 7:30 p.m. I sat alone at a table near the back of the ballroom. Not a VIP table. Richard would call me up later. From where I sat, I could see Jessica's table clearly. She was smiling now, laughing, leaning toward Harrison, touching his arm. The silver-haired man, Robert Hayes, was talking to William Blackwell, gesturing with his hands, looking every bit the confident, successful father-in-law. Jessica looked happy. No one at that table knew the truth. I looked at the stage, the banner, the LED screen, the podium where in less than an hour Richard Harmon would call my name. And when he did, everything would come to light. By 8 o'clock, everything would be clear. Comment from 1 to 10 to rate the story. This story contains dramatized elements to make it easier to tell. Not your thing, feel free to exit now. But if you're ready to witness what happens when Marcus's truth is finally exposed in front of 400 guests, stay tuned. 8 p.m. September 5th, 2025. I sat at my table near the back of the ballroom, staring at the plate in front of me. Filet mignon, perfectly cooked, garnished with rosemary and roasted vegetables. I cut a piece, put it in my mouth. I couldn't taste anything. My stomach was too tight. Suddenly the lights went out. A spotlight hit the stage. Richard Harmon stepped up to the microphone. He wore a black tuxedo, perfectly tailored. His voice echoed through the ballroom. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for Heroes Among Us, our annual gala supporting veterans in our community. Tonight we've raised over $200,000. The crowd applauded. I set my fork down, hands trembling. 3 days ago, I'd sat in Richard's office on the 47th floor. He'd asked me to accept this honor at the gala. I'd said yes. Then I'd told him everything. The portfolio, the donations, the 30 years of silent investing. He'd stared at me for a full minute, speechless. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" he'd finally asked. "Because it didn't matter," I'd said. "But now, my daughter needs to know. She thinks I'm just a janitor. She's ashamed of me. I need her to see the truth." Richard had leaned forward, his expression intense. "Then let me tell them. Let me tell everyone." I'd nodded. "Please." Now standing under the spotlight, Richard waited for the applause to fade, then continued. "But tonight isn't just about money. It's about gratitude. 21 years ago in Fallujah, Iraq, a man saved my life. And tonight I want to introduce him to you." He pointed toward me. "Marcus Thompson, would you please come to the stage?" 400 heads turned in my direction. I stood. My legs felt like they might give out. I walked down the aisle between the tables. Faces watched me, curious, polite, indifferent. The spotlight followed me, blinding. I kept my eyes on the stage, focused on each step. My heart hammered in my chest. I climbed the stairs. Richard met me at the top, extended his hand. I shook it. His grip was firm, reassuring. He leaned close, whispered, "You okay?" I nodded. He turned back to the microphone. March 15th, 2004. Our convoy hit an improvised explosive device outside Fallujah. The Humvee caught fire. I was trapped in the back seat, my leg pinned under twisted metal. Smoke filled the cabin. The heat was unbearable. I thought I was gone. The LED screen behind us lit up. A photograph appeared. Me. 1995. Marine Corps dress uniform. 28 years old. Crew cut. A bronze star medal pinned to my chest. I looked young. Strong. A lifetime ago. Richard continued. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Thompson pulled me out. He took shrapnel in his shoulder doing it. He saved my life while risking his own. And do you know what he did after that? The audience was silent. He went back to work. No fanfare, no ceremonies. Well, he did receive a Purple Heart, but he never mentioned it. For 21 years, I searched for him. Last year, I finally found him. He was working the night shift at my company, mopping floors, the audience murmured. I felt every eye in the room on me. Richard pressed a button on the remote in his hand. The LED screen changed. But 3 days ago, Marcus told me something I never expected. A new image appeared. A screenshot of an investment app. The account name read M. Thompson. Below it, in large, bold numbers, portfolio value $8,743,267.43. The audience gasped. Whispers rippled through the ballroom. Richard smiled. Why, Marcus Thompson built this portfolio from a $5,000 discharge check over the last 30 years. A self-taught investor. He lives in a modest apartment in the Tenderloin. Drives a 2008 Honda Civic. Works as a janitor cleaning floors at night. Why? Because he's humble. Because he doesn't need money to define who he is. He paused, letting the words sink in. And do you know what else Marcus told me? The screen changed again. A list of donations appeared. SF Veterans Community Center, $250,000 Wounded Warrior Project. $150,000 Bay Area Homeless Veterans Fund, $200,000. total $600,000. Richard's voice rose, filling the ballroom. Marcus has donated $600,000 to veteran causes over the past decade, anonymously. Until tonight, no one knew. Not his co-workers, not his friends, no one. The entire ballroom erupted. 400 people stood clapping, cheering. The sound was deafening, crashing over me like a wave. I stood on the stage, frozen. The spotlight was hot on my face. The applause pounded in my ears. I looked out into the crowd, searching. Jessica. I found her. She was still sitting at the VIP table, the only person not standing. Her face was completely white, drained of all color. Her hands gripped the edge of the table so hard her knuckles were pale. Harrison sat beside her, half standing, staring at her with confusion and concern written all over his face. William and Eleanor Blackwell were on their feet, applauding enthusiastically, smiling broadly. And beside Jessica, David Torres, the man pretending to be Robert Hayes. He sat perfectly still, his face, rigid jaw clenched tight. Jessica's eyes met mine across the ballroom. For a moment, everything else disappeared. I saw it all in her expression. Shock, disbelief, horror, shame. "You'll embarrass me," she'd said 3 days ago. "You're just a janitor. You clean toilets." And now 400 people were giving me a standing ovation. The applause continued for what felt like an eternity. Richard stood beside me, hand on my shoulder, smiling, waiting patiently for the crowd to settle. Slowly, the clapping died down. People began to sit. The murmurs faded. Richard raised the microphone again. His voice was quieter now, more serious. "But there's more," he said. "Marcus did something even more extraordinary." I turned to him, confused. "What else?" 8:40 p.m. September 5th, 2025. I stood on the stage, still dazed from the applause, trying to process what had just happened. Richard turned to me, his expression softer now. Marcus," he said into the microphone, "you did something even more extraordinary for your daughter." I blinked. Daughter. I hadn't told Richard about Jessica. How did he know? Richard smiled gently. "When I found you, I ran a background check. I hope you don't mind. You have a daughter, Jessica Thompson, 29 years old, graduated from MIT in 2018. The LED screen behind us changed. A photograph appeared. Jessica in her MIT graduation robes, black cap, gold honor cords draped around her neck. She was smiling, bright, proud, full of hope. The audience applauded warmly. I looked down into the ballroom, searching for her. Jessica stood abruptly, her hands flying up to cover her face. Richard continued, "But here's what moved me most. Marcus, you set up a scholarship fund." The screen changed again. Anonymous MIT Scholarship Fund for low-income students. Total contributions, $280,000 over 10 years, 2015 to 2024. Richard's voice filled the ballroom. This fund has helped 12 students attend MIT. Students who couldn't afford the $60,000 annual tuition. Students like... He paused. Jessica Thompson. The audience erupted in applause, louder this time, sustained and heartfelt. I looked down at Jessica. She collapsed back into her chair, her face buried in her hands. Harrison leaned toward her, saying something I couldn't hear. She shook her head violently. Richard smiled at me, then turned back to the crowd. Marcus funded his own daughter's education anonymously, so she would never feel indebted to him. That, ladies and gentlemen, is love. More applause. I stood frozen, my throat tight. I hadn't wanted anyone to know about the fund. I'd set it up through Richard's company years ago, asked him to manage it quietly. I'd never tracked the details. I'd trusted him. Richard's expression shifted. His smile faded. His voice grew serious. "But," he said slowly. Tonight I also need to address something difficult. I turned to him confused. Sir. He waved a hand toward the side of the stage. A woman walked out. Mid-40s, black suit, her hair pulled back in a tight bun. She carried a folder in one hand and took the microphone Richard handed her. Good evening, she said, her voice calm and professional. I'm Margaret Walsh, legal counsel for this scholarship fund. As part of our annual audit, we discovered an irregularity in the MIT Scholarship Fund. The audience went silent. Margaret opened the folder. Over the past 3 years, $108,000 was withdrawn from the fund without authorization. The murmurs started immediately, low, uncertain rippling through the ballroom. The LED screen changed again. A bank statement appeared. Withdrawals $3,000 per month times 36 months equals $108,000, period, January 2022 to December 2024. Margaret continued. We traced the withdrawals. The money was transferred into an account owned by Jessica Thompson. Gasps. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. What? I whispered. Margaret glanced at me briefly, then back at the audience. The withdrawals match Ms. Thompson's rent payments for her apartment in the Marina District, $4,500 per month. $3,000 from the scholarship fund, $1,500 from another source. The screen changed once more. A lease agreement appeared. Jessica Thompson, $1,200. Marina Boulevard, San Francisco monthly rent. $4,500 lease start date. January 1st, 2022. I stared at the screen. The numbers blurred. I looked down at Jessica. She was standing now, her face flushed bright red, tears streaming down her cheeks. Harrison stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. His expression caught between confusion and alarm. William and Eleanor Blackwell stared at her, their faces frozen in shock. David Torres, Robert Hayes, sat perfectly still, like a statue, his jaw clenched tight. Margaret's voice cut through the noise. To be clear, Marcus Thompson did not authorize these withdrawals. Ms. Thompson had access to the fund through a shared banking app Mr. Thompson had set up years ago to send her monthly support payments. She used that access to withdraw money from the scholarship fund without his knowledge or consent. The ballroom erupted in whispers. Heads turned. People stared at Jessica, at me, at the screen. I grabbed the microphone from Margaret, my hand shaking. My voice cracked. I didn't know about this. The words sounded hollow, weak. Richard placed a hand on my shoulder, his grip firm. Marcus, I'm sorry, but this fund requires transparency. We had a legal obligation to disclose this. I nodded numbly. My chest felt like it was caving in. I looked down at Jessica again. She was sobbing now openly, her shoulders shaking. Harrison stood beside her, his hand still on her shoulder, but his expression had changed, confusion, hardening into something colder. William and Eleanor whispered to each other, their faces pale. David Torres didn't move. The audience buzzed with conversation, shock, judgment, pity, curiosity. I stood on the stage, my legs like lead, watching my daughter cry. She stole from the fund, from the scholarship I set up to help students like her, from the money I'd saved for 30 years. She stole from me, 9 p.m. Suddenly, William Blackwell stood up at the VIP table. He stepped away from his seat, walked toward the stage, his eyes locked on me. He pointed directly at me. "Wait!" he said loudly, his voice cutting through the noise. I know that face. 9 p.m. September 5th, 2025. William Blackwell stepped onto the stage without asking permission. He didn't look at Richard. He didn't acknowledge the audience. He walked straight toward me, his eyes locked on my face. He stopped 2 feet away, stared at me. Gunnery Sergeant Thompson. I blinked. Sir? Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Thompson, Camp Pendleton, 1990. Charlie Company. You trained me. I looked at his face. Silver hair, strong jaw, something familiar in his eyes. And then I remembered. Private Blackwell. He smiled. His eyes were red wet. Yes, sir. He turned to the audience, took the microphone from Richard's hand. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, his voice steady and loud, this man standing here is the reason I'm alive. Not just in Fallujah, before that, in 1990. I was 18 years old, an arrogant kid. Thought I was tough. Gunnery Sergeant Thompson was my drill instructor at Camp Pendleton. He broke me down. Then he built me back up. He taught me discipline, honor, courage, everything I am today. CEO, father, veteran, I owe to this man. The audience applauded. Not polite applause, real, sustained applause. William turned back to me, extended his hand. I shook it. Then he pulled me into a tight military hug, the kind you give a brother. He whispered in my ear. Thank you, Gunny, I whispered back. You made me proud, son. He released me, stepped back. Then he turned toward the ballroom, his eyes scanning the VIP table. He pointed. Who the hell are you? The audience went silent. David Torres stood slowly. His face was pale. William's voice was ice. Jessica introduced you as her father, Robert Hayes, Napa real estate investor. But Marcus Thompson is standing right here. So who are you? David said nothing. 5 seconds passed. Then quietly, I'm an actor. Gasps rippled through the ballroom. William walked off the stage, down the stairs, straight to the VIP table. Say that again. David's voice shook. My name is David Torres. I'm an actor. Jessica hired me. William turned to Jessica. She was sitting, her face streaked with tears, her hands trembling. You hired a fake father. Jessica opened her mouth. No words came out. Harrison stood beside her. His face was a mask of shock and disbelief. Jessica, he said slowly. What is this? Jessica looked up at him, her voice breaking. Harrison, I can explain. You hired an actor to pretend to be your dad. His voice rose. While your real father is a hero, a millionaire, and you... He stopped, his face twisting. You stole from him. I didn't steal. You took $108,000 from a scholarship fund, your father's fund, to pay for an apartment you couldn't afford, and you lied to me. You lied to my family. For months. Jessica's face crumpled. She covered her mouth with her hands, sobbing. William's voice cut through the noise, cold and sharp. Jessica, my father was a Marine. I'm a Marine. Marcus Thompson is a hero who trained me, who saved Richard, who donated $600,000 to veterans, who funded 12 kids through MIT. And you replaced him with a $10,000 actor because you were ashamed he's a janitor. Jessica sat down hard, her face buried in her hands. Her shoulders shook. Eleanor Blackwell stood, Harrison's mother, 51 years old. She looked at Jessica, shook her head slowly, then turned and walked out of the ballroom. Harrison looked at Jessica one last time. His expression was cold, distant. I can't. He paused. I can't continue this. He turned and followed his mother. William walked back to the stage, reached into the inside pocket of his tuxedo, and pulled out a checkbook. He wrote quickly, tore off the check, and handed it to me. "Gunnery Sergeant Thompson, this is for your service, for your sacrifice, for everything." I looked down. The check was made out for $1 million, signed William Blackwell. I stared at it, shook my head. "Sir, I can't accept this." "You can, and you will. Consider it a thank you 35 years overdue." He shook my hand firmly, turned back to the audience. "This," he said, his voice ringing through the ballroom, "is a real man. Not that fake garbage we just saw." He walked off the stage and left. The ballroom was silent. I stood there holding the check. $1 million. The number didn't feel real. I looked down at the VIP table. Jessica sat alone. David Torres was gone. The table was empty, 4 chairs abandoned. People stared at me, at her, at the empty seats. No one spoke. No one moved. 9:30 p.m. Richard stepped beside me, leaned close, and whispered, "Marcus, you should go." I nodded. I folded the check, put it in my jacket pocket, and walked off the stage through the back exit. I didn't look back. Friday night, September 5th, 2025. 10 p.m. I drove my Civic home through empty streets. The city was quiet. I parked in my usual spot, climbed the stairs to my apartment, unlocked the door, and walked inside. I pulled the check from my jacket pocket. $1 million. William Blackwell's signature at the bottom. I set it on the kitchen table. Then I sat down in the dark. I didn't turn on the lights. I just sat there staring at the check in the dim glow from the street lamp outside my window. I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. Jessica, sitting alone at that empty VIP table, crying. Mascara streaking down her cheeks. 3 a.m., Saturday, September 6th. I picked up my phone, 47 missed calls. All from Jessica, 23 text messages. "Dad, I'm sorry. Please pick up. I can explain. Dad, please. I know I messed up. Please talk to me. Dad, I'm begging you." On and on. 19 more messages just like that. I set the phone down. I didn't reply. Over the next few weeks, I learned what happened to her. Some of it I saw on the news. Some of it I heard from Ray Martinez, a 75-year-old veteran I knew from the Veterans Community Center. Some of it I found out by accident. Saturday, September 6th. 9 a.m., Ray called me. "Marcus, you need to see this." A video had been posted on social media. Someone at the gala had recorded the whole thing secretly from the back of the ballroom. The title read, "Daughter hires fake father, steals $108,000 from real hero dad." It had already gone viral. Sunday, September 7th, 11 a.m. I was sitting in my apartment when I saw it on the local news, KRON4. A reporter stood outside Jessica's office building. San Francisco marketing director Jessica Thompson is at the center of a charity gala scandal, the reporter said. Thompson allegedly hired an actor to impersonate her father, while her real father, a decorated Marine veteran, stood on stage just feet away. Jessica's photo appeared on the screen, her professional headshot, smiling, confident. I turned off the TV. Tuesday, September 9th, 3 p.m. Ray called again. "Marcus, I saw the news. That's your daughter." "Yes." "She's getting attacked online, man. Bad. The video's at 5 million views now. Comments are brutal." I said nothing. Ray continued. People are calling her every name in the book, saying she's ungrateful, saying she deserves everything that's coming to her. Tuesday, September 9th, 5 p.m. Ray called back. They fired her. Her company. I heard it from a friend whose kid works there. She's out, Monday, September 15th. I received an email from the property management company that owned Jessica's Marina District apartment. They'd sent it to me because I was listed as her emergency contact. Ms. Thompson currently owes 3 months' rent totaling $13,500. An eviction notice has been filed. Please contact us immediately to resolve this matter. I stared at the email for 10 minutes. Then I closed my laptop. Saturday, September 20th. I opened social media. I rarely used it, but I wanted to see if Harrison had said anything. He had. A post. Public. Posted 2 hours earlier. Sometimes you discover people aren't who you thought they were. Moving forward. The photo showed Harrison alone. Hiking somewhere in Marin. No mention of Jessica, no explanation. Just that. Moving forward. Wednesday, September 25th. Ray called. Marcus, I saw her. Where? At the VA food bank. She was in line picking up groceries. Looked bad, man, really bad. Thin, tired. She didn't see me. I didn't say anything. I gripped the phone tighter. Said nothing. Monday, October 6th. Ray called again. She moved. Out of Marina. I asked around. She's in the Tenderloin now. Studio apartment. $800 a month. Working 2 jobs. Waitressing at some diner. Delivery on the side. I closed my eyes. You okay, Marcus? Yeah. You gonna call her? I don't know. I sat in my apartment that night, looked at my phone, scrolled through the 47 missed calls, all from the same number. My hand shook. I wanted to call her back, but I couldn't. Monday, October 6th, 11 p.m. My phone buzzed. A new text from Jessica. Dad, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just want you to know I love you. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I started typing. I love you too. My finger hovered over the send button. 5 minutes passed. Then I deleted it. I set the phone down. Didn't send anything. Monday, October 6th, 11:30 p.m. I picked up the check from the kitchen table. $1 million. I'd kept it there for a month untouched. I drove to the Veterans Community Center, the same place where I'd volunteered for years. The same place where Ray and I drank coffee on Sunday mornings. I walked inside. The director was still there working late in her office. I handed her the check. I want to donate this, I said. She looked at the amount. Her eyes went wide. Marcus, in honor of all who served, I said. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Thank you. I drove home, climbed the stairs, unlocked the door, lay down on my bed, still in my clothes. I stared at the ceiling. Maybe this was how she learned. Maybe this was how she became the person she was supposed to be. Maybe. October 7th, 2025. I started volunteering at the San Francisco Veterans Community Center. 3 times a week. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. 6 to 9 p.m. right after my night shift ended. The center was a low brick building in the Mission District. Veterans came in for meals, for company, for help with paperwork. I served food, stacked chairs, mopped floors, listened to stories from men and women who understood sacrifice. On my second week, I met Ray Martinez. 75 years old, Vietnam veteran, white hair, kind eyes, sitting in a wheelchair. He'd been volunteering at the center for 20 years. One evening, as I stacked chairs, Ray rolled up beside me. "Marcus," he said quietly. "You're the man from the gala, the one with the daughter." "Yes." "Have you talked to her?" "No." "Why not?" I set a chair down. "She chose money over me. She hired a fake father. She stole $108,000. She needs to learn this lesson." Ray was quiet for a moment. Then he leaned forward. "Learn what, Marcus? That her dad abandoned her the same way she abandoned you. Two wrongs don't make a right brother." I didn't answer. October 15th. Ray found me in the kitchen washing dishes. "I saw her again yesterday, at the VA food bank. She asked about you. I told her you're volunteering here." I kept scrubbing. "What did she say?" "Nothing, just nodded. Then she left." My hands were shaking. November 1st. I sat at my kitchen table late at night checking the MIT Scholarship Fund statement on my laptop. I scrolled through the transactions, and then I saw it. Date: October 28th, 2025. Deposit $50. Note: Jessica Thompson. Repayment. I stared at the screen for a full minute. $50. Not much compared to $108,000, but it was something. She was repaying it. My chest tightened. I closed the laptop, sat in the dark. November 15th. Another deposit. Date: November 10th, 2025. Deposit $100. Note: Jessica Thompson. I called Ray. She's sending money to the fund. "I know," Ray said. "She told me. Said she's going to pay back every dollar, even if it takes her the rest of her life." Ray paused. "Marcus, that's your daughter. She's trying." "I know." December 20th. Ray rolled up beside me as I folded donated clothes. "She's working 2 jobs, Marcus. Waitressing at IHOP on Mission. Delivery on the side, riding a bike in the rain. Living in a studio apartment in the Tenderloin, you know that neighborhood. It's rough." I kept folding. "She's eating instant noodles, wearing the same coat every day, and she's sending every spare dollar to that scholarship fund. $850 so far. At this rate, it'll take her 10 years to repay the full $108,000. Ray paused. "But she's doing it, Marcus. She's actually doing it." I looked at the donation board on the wall. Near the top, written in neat black marker, Jessica Thompson. $500 my daughter was changing. December 24th, 2025. Christmas Eve. 6 p.m. The center was nearly empty. I was alone in the kitchen cleaning up when I heard a knock on the side door. I opened it. Jessica stood in the rain. The streetlight behind her cast a yellow glow through the drizzle. Her hair was soaked, plastered to her face. She wore an old gray coat too thin for the weather. Her hands were red from the cold. She'd lost weight, 15 pounds, maybe more. Her eyes were red and swollen. "Jessica." She looked up at me. "Dad, I don't know where else to go." I stood there, one hand on the doorframe. She took a shaky breath. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the rain. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know I was wrong. I was ashamed of you. I hired a stranger to pretend to be my father. I took your money you saved for students who needed it. I lied to everyone. I'm the worst person in the world." Her voice cracked. She was trembling, and then she dropped to her knees, right there on the wet pavement. Her knees hit the concrete. The rain soaked through her jeans. But I want you to know. She could barely get the words out. I love you. Even if you never forgive me, I still love you. I always have. I looked down at her. My daughter. The little girl I'd raised since she was 3 years old. The photo I'd carried in my wallet for 26 years. Now kneeling at my feet in the rain. I stepped outside. The cold rain soaked through my shirt. I bent down, took her trembling hands in mine, and pulled her to her feet. Then I wrapped my arms around her and held her as tight as I could. Stand up, sweetheart, I whispered. I never want to see you kneel. Not to me, not to anyone. She collapsed against me, sobbing into my shoulder. Her whole body shook. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I held her tighter. I know. Behind me, I heard the soft sound of wheels on tile. Ray sat in his wheelchair at the doorway watching us. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand and smiled. December 25th to December 31st. Jessica started volunteering at the center with me. Twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We didn't talk much at first. We just worked side by side, serving food to veterans who came in for dinner, cleaning tables, washing dishes, sitting with the older men and women listening to their stories. One evening, a Vietnam vet named Frank asked Jessica, "You Marcus's daughter?" She nodded. "Yes, sir," Frank smiled. "Your old man's a good guy. Saved a lot of lives over in Iraq. You should be proud of him." Jessica glanced at me across the room. Our eyes met. She smiled, small, tentative, but real. "I am," she said quietly. "I really am." On December 28th, as we were locking up the center, I asked her, "Do you need money?" She shook her head immediately. "No, Dad. I have to do this myself. I need to earn it back. All of it." I nodded. December 31st, 2025, 11:50 p.m. We sat on the rooftop of Jessica's studio building in the Tenderloin, 6th floor. The roof was flat, covered in old tar paper and gravel. A rusted metal railing ran along the edge. From here, we could see the downtown skyline, the Transamerica Pyramid, the Salesforce Tower, the Bay Bridge lights stretching across the water. In the distance, over the Embarcadero, fireworks were starting to bloom. Red, gold, green, bursting in silence before the sound reached us a second later. Jessica sat beside me, wrapped in a blanket. Her breath misted in the cold air. "Dad," she said quietly, "I'm going to repay all of it. All $108,000, even if it takes me 10 years. I know you will." She was quiet for a moment, watching the fireworks. Then she turned to me. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Why didn't you ever tell me you were rich?" I looked out at the city, the lights, the fireworks painting the sky. "Because I wanted you to love me for who I am," I said. "Not for what I have." She started crying. Quiet tears. "I failed that test, didn't I?" I put my arm around her shoulders, pulled her close. "You did," I said honestly. "But now you're taking it again, and this time you'll pass." My phone screen lit up. 11:59 p.m., December 31st, 2025. The fireworks exploded in massive bursts of red and gold over the bay, reflecting off the water like a second sky. I thought, this isn't the end. This is the beginning. I kept my arm around Jessica's shoulders. She leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder, watching the fireworks light up the night. My daughter had lost everything. Her job, her apartment, her fiancé, her reputation, her pride. But she was finding something more important. herself. And I would be here. Always. Looking back at my story, I see a painful truth. Family betrayal cuts deeper than any wound. When Jessica hired that actor, she didn't just reject me. She rejected everything I'd sacrificed for 26 years. But here's what I learned. Shame is a poison that destroys from within. My daughter was so consumed by shame that she couldn't see the love standing right in front of her. If you're reading grandpa stories like mine looking for wisdom, here's mine. Don't let pride or shame blind you to what truly matters. Don't measure your worth or anyone else's by job titles, bank accounts, or zip codes. I was a janitor with $8 million, but that never mattered to me. What mattered was being a father. And Jessica nearly lost that forever because she valued appearances over authenticity. Family betrayal taught me this: forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about giving someone the chance to become who they're meant to be. Jessica knelt in the rain on Christmas Eve, not because I demanded it, but because she'd finally understood the weight of her choices. That moment pulling her to her feet was when I chose love over anger. The Bible says love covers a multitude of sins. God gave us the capacity to forgive because He knows we're all broken. Jessica was broken by shame. I was broken by rejection. But together, through humility and accountability, we're rebuilding something real. So here's my advice: don't be like my daughter was. Don't trade authenticity for acceptance. Don't hide your family because they don't fit someone else's expectations. And don't wait until you've lost everything to realize what you had. Grandpa stories like mine aren't just cautionary tales. They're blueprints for redemption. Family betrayal doesn't have to be the end. Sometimes it's where the real story begins. Thank you for walking with me through this journey. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment sharing what you'd do if you found yourself in Marcus's shoes or in Jessica's. How would you handle a moment like the coat check scene or the Christmas Eve confrontation? Your perspective matters to me. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing to the channel so you won't miss future narratives exploring the complexities of family betrayal, resilience, and second chances among grandpa stories that carry life lessons. A gentle reminder: while inspired by real-world themes of class struggle, shame, and reconciliation, certain elements have been dramatized for storytelling purposes. If this content doesn't align with your preferences, feel free to explore other videos that might suit you better.